Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you.
And look, for everyone who's watching, I wanted to introduce you properly now that we're sorted. So it's 4:30 UK time, and it must be about 8:30, am I right, in the morning in LA?
That in San Francisco Bay Area,
Oh,
yes.
you're in San Francisco. Fine, okay. So for everyone who doesn't know you, this is Reena Vokoun. Is it Vokoun? How do I pronounce your surname?
You had it, yep, Vokoun.
Okay, Vokoun. And Reena is the lady who inspired and helped me to lose weight and get fit during lockdown. So I'm really excited. It's like meeting someone famous. It's like you've been in my bedroom. You've been in my bedroom for 7 months now.
Oh my goodness, what an honor.
So thank you for joining us in the Lassie Lounge. So Reena, I wanted to talk to you today about, obviously we'll briefly talk about my journey, which brought us together, but I really want to talk about fitness and nutrition for women over 40, midlife women.
Yeah.
So I'm going to a very brief sort of summary for those who probably don't know about my story. I put on a lot of weight during menopause from the age of about 43. It was actually perimenopause. I put on about 3 stone. We measure in stone. In pounds, that must be what it's about over 40 pounds in weight, and I've never been able to shift it. And I decided I was going to use lockdown as an opportunity to kind of address my nutrition and I looked all over YouTube for a fitness video that would work for me, that was not too high impact, that I could do in my bedroom every morning. And everything I was looking at was lots of sort of young nubile, sort of teenage girls sort of saying, hit the floor and, give me 10. And then I came across you. So Reena, tell everyone about you and what you do and about the video that I tried and have been doing.
Yeah, so my company, Passion Fit, focuses on empowering women to flourish both personally and professionally through wellness. So I love to work with professional women, fellow moms like myself, that have struggles with trying to balance their career, trying to balance their family life. As you mentioned, different life stages. Menopause is definitely one that can really affect women in a lot of different ways. So, for childbearing women as well. So I just really have a passion to help and empower women. I've gone through, the burnout. I've gone through the childbearing years, and my boys are 9 and 13. And I just really understand, not only through my own experiences personally, but professionally working in the corporate space, as well as now starting and running my own company. I just know that there's so much that we have to do as women. And one of the biggest things that we sometimes forget to do is take care of ourselves. And so that's where one of the very first things that I did when I launched my company was launch a YouTube channel. And to celebrate, I'm not sure if you know this, Katie, but to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the launch was when I actually filmed the Total Body Sculpt workout video series that you had done and have been doing. And what I really wanted to do was bring all of the women that have been so important in my life. So, dear friends from different life stages, family members of the Passion Fit community who've been taking the classes. And it was just a really fun project to all come together. I had their hair and makeup done. I had food for them. We got massages. They had gift bags and goodies. And it was just a day to pamper them and just tell them how much I appreciate them. And then we got to go and film this awesome video together that we knew would help other women. And so that's where I think it's just so special to me, Katie, that this is after, I filmed this in 2015. It's been 5 years. So the fact that and I've had several other video series that have been filmed since then. So it's just special that you found it when you did, and it helped you in lockdown in a really tough time in the world and a tough time for you, it sounds like, personally. And it just warms my heart that it's made such an impact in your life.
Oh, well, look, it's amazing. I think the reason why I loved it, and I hope my community in the Lassie Lounge will enjoy it too, is because I hate doing things alone. And I think one of the reasons why it was successful was to feel like you're in a room with other women You know, because I used to do that. I used to go to classes and I'd be with Tara and Tracy who work with me, and we'd have a giggle and we'd have a laugh, and you'd be doing it as a kind of group of women together. So, you know, seeing you and your friends and family who I feel like I know now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and it wasn't, you know, I have exercised all my life, but I've had moments in time when I've been very low for whatever reason, and so I've eaten badly, that exercise sort of falls off. But the reason why your video was so good is that you can do it at any level to suit you. So if you're a beginner, you know, there are options for a beginner, and if, you know, and you can push yourself, you know, if you're more advanced. So look, talk to us about, in terms of fitness and nutrition in women over 40, you know, I always talk about top tips. What would your sort of top tips be for women who are maybe not used to exercise, but really want to sort of ease themselves in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing that is important for women to remember is after you turn 40, and it may be other ages in life as well, but you can't do the same thing that you've always done, because with age, our bodies are going to change, our metabolism is going to change, and the way that exercise or lack thereof and even food impacts us is also going to change. So I just think that it's really important to know that if, you know, I've had clients say, well, I'm eating the same and I'm exercising the way that I was in my 30s and my 20s, and all of a sudden I'm gaining all this weight and I don't know what to do. And I think a lot of women may not realize that, you know, even though you're doing the same things, your body is changing hormonally. You know, I know, Katie, you've gone through that as well. And so it's important to almost prepare for that. So when it comes to exercise, bone density building is something that's really important as we age, because we do start to lose muscle. Our bones do start to get weak. A lot of women can suffer from osteoporosis. So making sure that you are getting a combination of cardiovascular activity, strength training, and flexibility work, because you can also lose your flexibility and your mobility in your body. And that's where, as we age, I would say that exercise is one of the single most important things that we can do, maybe even more so than when we were younger, to really not only just keep you slim or help you lose weight or maintain weight, but really just to protect you from aging, from falling, from diabetes, from heart disease. There's so many different things that cardiovascular activity and strength training and flexibility work can help with. Yoga, as another example, can really help with even stress management. So I would recommend for women who maybe aren't used to exercising, you know, start with something that may come naturally to you. So if it is more of the Pilates style workouts, if it's even just walking for 30 minutes every morning, or if dancing is your thing, I think the more you start with something that is natural to you, the more you're going to feel motivated to do it, and to do it more often. If you set yourself up to just start running all of a sudden, one, that might not be great for your joints as you get older. And if it's not something that you're used to doing, you're probably going to fall off. So that would be probably my first tip.
And it's a really interesting thing you said, because I remember, I mean, I've had 4 kids and 4 cesareans, sadly. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so through those pregnancies and trying to recover from the cesarean, you know, I'd already put on a lot of weight and found it quite hard to kind of get my fitness back. And I had this thing, and a lot of women do this, where, right, I'm turning 40, I'm going to take up running. And it was the worst thing I could have done, because what I didn't know, because I've never been a runner, was I had hip dysplasia. So I was born with a sort of, you know, the ball and socket joint was not fitting properly. And I had been pounding those pavements and rubbing away the joint, and I got a lot of pain and I slipped a disc. And it was only when I went to see a doctor, he said, right, you can't run, you should never have run. You need to find low impact, you know, exercises. And that's why I started going to classes like yours, you know, obviously before COVID, not virtually, because you can be just as effective without having to jump up and down and run and you know, affect your joints. So, you know, and then in terms of, okay, so for women like me, the reason I keep revisiting your video all the time is you become kind of very attached to it, and you're kind of scared to try something else, because if it works, you know, why try something else? But do you get to a point where you really actually need to change things up, or you're not going to benefit from it, or can you just stick with the same thing forever?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do think that there can come a point where you start to peak a little bit,
Mm,
and the exercises then start to become a little bit too easy for your body because you've gotten so good at it, right? You've been doing it. You're getting stronger in your core, your upper and lower body, and after a certain period of time, you could end up finding that it's not as challenging for you. That could be an opportunity within the, like, if you want to stick to that video, maybe for a while maybe you started with the modifications, maybe you challenge yourself and take away a modification on certain exercises and not others. Now,
mm,
obviously, if you have joint issues, back problems, knee problems, or like you had hip displacement, you want to make sure that you're very careful, you're checking with your doctor before you take yourself to the next level, because obviously we want to prevent injury as much as possible. But I would say, taking yourself up to the next level could be one way, but also having variety so that you don't plateau, you don't get bored, is important as well. I try in my videos to kind of have, a very similar style, a similar warm up in the workout and cool down in the workout that you can kind of get accustomed to. But I do try to mix it up for my clients, both in person and then virtually, so that we're always trying to work some different muscle groups. Actually, just had a conversation with a couple of my clients this week about that. I was asking them for feedback, and they were saying, I always know when you're doing something new because my body will feel it and I might
yeah.
feel a little bit more sore. But that's a good thing as long as it's not pain. But just a little extra muscle soreness then shows you that, okay, your body is being challenged to the next level. So I would say stick to the things that work for you. You can keep that in the mix of your weekly lineup, but it doesn't hurt to add some other things for variety, just so that you don't get bored, and also to kind of keep challenging your body and your mind as you're exercising.
Yeah, so you were talking about osteoporosis is a very big thing, especially in women, after 40 and sometimes even before, when your hormone levels are starting to drop, and especially when we're losing a lot of estrogen, and osteoporosis is a real worry. And for those who want to take HRT, or can, obviously that can be helpful. But for those who don't want to or can't, in terms of keeping your body sort of your bones strong and hopefully preventing osteoporosis. What do you mean by sort of weight-bearing exercises? Is that actually using weights and weightlifting, or your own body weight?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it can be both, actually. So if you feel comfortable to use weights, then weight-bearing exercises can help you to build more muscle, and that is going to sort of help with preventing against falls and things, and breaking bones that can result from osteoporosis. In my classes, I don't use heavy weights. I know the one that you do, Katie, is all body weight, and we'll talk about that in a second. But even the classes that I teach with weights, we use no more than 2 to 3 to 5 pounds at the most. Only because I'm also usually taking the students through different types of exercises along with the work with the weight. So you're not just standing in place and then just, pumping dumbbells. We might be doing squats, we might be doing lunges. And so for that reason, you want to keep the weights light. But I do think that can help. So weight-bearing exercises really do help build that extra strength and that extra muscle mass, which is also good for weight loss and weight management, because the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you're going to burn, and it really does positively impact your metabolism.
Yeah.
That being said, if working with weights is just not comfortable for you, if you're worried about injury or overstraining, body weight exercises are great and are still every bit as good for you. So as examples, you could do push-ups on your knees. I like to call them Pilates style push-ups. Doing a lot of core strengthening work does not require weights. Doing things like squats and lunges and leg lifts where there's no jumping involved, there's no weights involved, but you're literally just using your own body weight and fighting against gravity and using your own resistance. And that in and of itself can be great strength training as well.
Okay, amazing. And look, also while we're on the subject, we're talking about balancing fitness and nutrition. In terms of nutrition, again, a lot of women, they almost sort of feel not because they're greedy, but I was a comfort eater, so I felt like I was possibly addicted to sugar, and I was comfort eating because the low hormones make you have low mood, and then you get into this vicious circle where the more weight you put on, the more self-conscious you are, then you don't want to exercise, and then you don't want to go out. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. What do you recommend, especially to your clients, but to all midlife women, in terms of balancing nutrition with fitness?
Absolutely. So I think with nutrition, you want to first and foremost take note of any dietary restrictions that you may have, whether you're lactose intolerant, whether you have gluten allergies, whether for whatever reasons you need to be vegetarian or vegan, or maybe you do like to eat meat. Thinking about all of that first and foremost is really important. And as always, check with your doctor if you have any concerns about how foods may or may not affect your body. But what I usually like to recommend to my clients is the Mediterranean style of eating, because it's not a fad diet. It's not something that's trendy this decade, but it's kind of taking into consideration all of the different food groups that have always been there, right? And I think certain diets, and not to say that they're wrong and that they don't work for people, but if you're subtracting an entire food group, that could be preventing you from getting nutrients that are really important for your body, especially as it's changing through midlife. So I would say focus as a foundation on fruits and vegetables. I know that's something we've heard for decades, but there's really something to be said for that, because these foods are very high in nutrients. They're natural, they're plant-based, and they really should be the foundation of your eating plan. You want to get, ideally 1 to 2 plus cups of fruits, 2 to 3 or more cups of vegetables, but a lot of that, and that's per day, but a lot of that is also going to depend on the number of calories you're taking in every day. So fruits and vegetable, and we'll talk about calories in a second, but fruits and vegetables are the core. And then obviously lean proteins. Again, if you're vegetarian, then maybe that's going to be in the form of beans and lentils and, things like that, tofu. But if you are going to eat meat, you want to make sure that it's lean meat, that it's organic meat. Fish is really good. Chicken is really good. Turkey. So making sure that you're getting meats that are lean and that are not high in saturated fats and cholesterol. And then in general, you want to be watching saturated fats, trans fats, cholesterol, sodium, and sugar are the big ones that I encourage my clients to watch out for. And then, depending on if you are lactose intolerant or not, as we were talking about with osteoporosis and bone health, you do need calcium. So that can come from milk. I personally really like to drink almond milk because that does give you both the vitamin D and the calcium, but less sugar that you would find sometimes in regular milk. Low-fat cheeses are really good. Greek yogurt also has a lot of protein and calcium. Eggs, especially egg whites, are really good for you, and those are lower in cholesterol. And then things like nuts and seeds, things like avocado, those are all healthy fats that really give you the monosaturated and the polysaturated fats. Those are all good things that are for you. So it's kind of getting, all those food groups. And then when it comes to grains and carbohydrates, I will say this, you probably, as you get older, you don't necessarily want to have, tons of grains in every single meal. I would not say to cut them out completely unless you have some sort of a gluten allergy or something like that, or maybe you're doing like the keto style of eating. But in my recommendations for my clients, I would say focus more on the quality of the grain. So rather than refined grains, you want to focus more on getting complex carbohydrates and whole grains that can come from things like brown rice, that can come from quinoa, barley, oats and other means. And if you're going to have grains, maybe try to have them earlier in the day. And I would say have them in 1 or not more than 2 of your meals, but maybe for dinner, you're focusing more on protein and vegetables. And that's just a really good way to still get that, the grains and the carbohydrates for energy, which we all need, but then you're not overdoing it where then it's breaking down in terms of sugars and too many carbohydrates that may not be good for your blood sugar, especially if you have tendencies towards diabetes. And then the last thing that I'll say about nutrition is just making sure that you're hydrating and you're drinking plenty of water. I think as we get older, our bodies start to dry up a little bit. And so you want to really make sure that you're replenishing yourself and drinking. I would recommend half your body weight in ounces every day. Wow. So if you're 120 pounds, then you would get 60 ounces of water per day. And if you're in heat, if you're exercising, then you want to get even more than that.
Oh, wow. There's a lot to take in there. But I think I was thinking about nutrition because I think I grew up obviously in the 80s as a teenager, and in those days it was all about fad diet. So it was, sort of counting calories, and you could only have 1,000 to lose weight, or don't eat fat. And so we'd all eat these low fat foods, which actually were high in sugar. And none of us could understand why we were yo-yo dieting and falling off the wagon. And it's almost taken me, to become 50 to kind of realize that, that was just such a bad time to grow up, because actually, the healthy fats are good for you. Low fat is actually not good for you, because it's usually piled with more sugar to make it taste better. And I think, you're absolutely right. It's about just bringing everything back to sort of, whole foods that, that you can sort of pick with your hands, or fish for, or hunt for, and avoid all that processed stuff and sugar. I mean, sugar, I realized myself, because I've got a sweet tooth, is that it's like a drug. It's addictive. And if you don't get off that sugar cycle, it's just you're going round in circles. And I think having personally now been off it for a year, I just feel so much better, healthier, more sort of satiated with the food that I eat. So
absolutely, because sugar is really found in a lot of processed foods, and it's added sugar. Like obviously the natural sugars that you get from fruit are okay as long as that's eaten in moderation. But that's where the sugar content can be so high in those packaged processed foods that you have in your cupboard. And if you are eating the more natural foods, you are going to feel much more satisfied and fulfilled. But I will say, for those of you like us that are that love sweets, one way that I do myself and I recommend to my clients is, a little bit of dark chocolate, a little bit a couple times a week, or maybe even a little bit every day is okay, because that's high in antioxidants, which are really good, especially for preventing things like cancer. So if you're if you're looking at the CACO levels, you want to be probably, I want to say like above like 60 or 70%, but just having a little bit of that is okay. And that can satisfy that sweet craving, and then you're not going to go and binge on donuts and cakes and cookies and other things like that.
So listen,
we've all done.
I know. I just want to talk about one more thing, and then obviously I would like people to know where they can find you and everything. You were talking about your sort of corporate career, and then that kind of led you to where you are and what you do today. And there's a big thing that go hand in hand with success, whether it's nutrition or exercise, and that is how much stress we have in our lives. And us midlife women, we are juggling so much. We've got kids, we've got aging parents, we've got, hopefully some of us have got partners, and we're running a home, and we're running a job, and we don't look after ourselves. I'm below the dog in our family, so it's no wonder that we all burn out, and the stress actually leads us to sort of comfort eating, because we just don't feel like cooking or exercising. So just briefly tell me, about the part that stress plays in this kind of circle of three, as I often call it.
That's a big part of the holistic focus I have for my clients. It's fitness, it's nutrition, and it's mindfulness, which really is what helps with stress management. But yes, I think women, and I do it too, I think it's natural for us to take care of others first before ourselves. But the more we keep doing that, the more we're just putting ourselves at risk of feeling depleted and developing health issues and not being happy, which is one of the biggest things that can happen if you put yourself last. And here I am, I'm in the kitchen. We're all in quarantine. My husband gets the home office. My kids have desks in their room, and I don't have a desk. I get the kitchen.
And I'm in the bedroom.
Right? That's right. But we make the best of it, and that's fine. But I think having those moments where you have to, step away for yourself. My mom actually has always taught me that if you don't take the time to take care of yourself, nobody else is going to do it for you. Even if your family members love you and have the best of intentions, they all have their own things to worry about. So I think that's the first thing, is just even scheduling for yourself, whether it's even 5 minutes a day or more if you can, that's just for yourself. Maybe it's to take some deep breaths. Maybe it's just to take a second to write a few things in your journal about how you're feeling or what you're grateful for. And if you have more time to invest, then that's where things like exercise, well, exercise should be something that you do no matter what. So I don't even want to list that as a nice to have, but meaning, you're scheduling in that time. Your time could be fit in with exercise, but it could also be, calling a girlfriend on the phone or doing a Zoom calls while we're in quarantine just to catch up with somebody, reading a book, taking a bubble bath. I mean, whatever it is, I know those things are more cliche sounding, but I think each woman has to define for themselves what things are going to replenish them and make them feel cared for and rejuvenated. And I think if you don't do that, then you're actually not going to be able to give to others. If you are working, you're not going to be able to give to your job and your career either, because it does start to catch up with you. And believe me, I learned from my own mistakes. And that's one of the reasons where I did experience burnout. And that's where I had to pull myself out of it and, really try to make a change in my own life and my family's life. And that's when I launched Passion Fit. And I'm writing a book that's coming out next year, and I talk all about it in a lot of detail. So stay tuned for that. But
well, definitely send me a copy and we'll review it and we'll share it with our followers. So Luke, tell everyone where they can, find you and your exercise videos.
Yeah, so passionfit.com is the website for the company, and there are a lot of different products, services, and content that are available for women. Obviously, the YouTube videos are one; those are on demand. There's a blog where I write about a lot of different topics, many of which we covered today in our conversation. I offer wellness consulting and coaching, 3-month transformational programs, wellness retreats, online courses, and so much more. So you can feel free to check out passionfit.com. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you can actually get a downloadable overview of my 7-step holistic approach to wellness, which is just a great way to get you started and thinking about how you can take better care of your health and well-being in midlife and beyond.
Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you for inspiring me and being in my bedroom 7 o'clock every other morning. And I have to say, before we go, you hit the nail on the head just now that for what I used to find that exercise was a chore and I dreaded it and I hated it and it was the only tool to lose weight. Now I look at it as a way to start my morning, something for me. So that is now my thing, and I actually enjoy it and feel so much better for the rest of the day. And it's no longer a chore, it's become a habit. So my top tip for anyone that's watching this is actually, do it to make you feel good, not to just sort of, lose a bit of weight, but actually it's a de-stressor as well, and you feel great. So thank you, Reena, and lovely that you joined us, and be well. And I saw one of your kids crawling behind the counter there, so tell him I saw him and your husband, and he
I even told them, I'm doing an interview this morning, so please everybody keep the kitchen clear. But.
Okay, I've got a note on my door and they've all been knocking.
Right, you understand.
Be well, Reena, and we will obviously share everything on both our channels. So take care and thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.